Throughout its history, Major League Baseball has seen players from over 40 countries, and every year about 15 to 20 countries are represented in MLB. But for some countries it still hasn't happened yet, even though some of those countries can boast thousands of domestic players from youth to adult. In the last 10 years, we've seen the first Major League players from Brazil, South Africa, and Lithuania. Several other countries have seen their first players reach the minors, so it's very likely we'll see a few players in the near future become the first from their country to reach the Major League level. For some of the countries I'll talk about here, there has already been someone to play in MLB, but it was someone who was born there and grew up in the US or some other country. I'm not counting them. When I say a player from that country, I mean someone who spent the better part of their youth there. One of these countries is the Czech Republic. They have a well-organized league that just played their championship series last week, so the country's been on my mind lately. They are consistently one of the top 5 countries in Europe, along with the Netherlands, Italy, Germany, and Spain. They're 17th in the world rankings, just behind Nicaragua and Colombia, 2 countries that have put several players in Major League Baseball. They're ahead of Italy, Germany, and Spain. The first Italian-raised player in MLB was Alex Liddy, who just debuted 10 years ago. The first German reached the big league level in 2007 when Donald Lutz made his debut. Another German, Max Kepler, appeared in 2015 and is still playing. So it seems logical that the Czech Republic is next in line. I'd put them ahead of Spain because they've done a better job of building up their youth baseball program, whereas Spain has relied heavily on dual citizens from Latin America to fill their national team's roster. They don't do as well in youth baseball. Last month, the Czech team won the Under-15 European Cup. That's not to say there won't be a Spaniard in MLB. As I said in a video a couple weeks ago, Spain is starting to put more emphasis on youth baseball, and they've got the sons of Caribbean immigrants to work with. But I think we'll see a Czech Major League player first. There's one in AAA right now. Martin Cervenka is a catcher at AAA Syracuse in the New York Mets system. It's his first full year in AAA. In 53 games, his line is .207, .292, .393. Not the most impressive hitting numbers. Also, he just turned 29, so he's starting to get up there in age. But as long as he's in AAA, there's always a chance he could get called up. A younger Czech prospect is 23-year-old third baseman and shortstop Vojtěch Mencik, who was just drafted by the Angels. He spent the last 3 years at NC State, where he played in the semifinals of the College World Series this summer. He's an average hitter with a little power, but his biggest strength is speed. He stole 11 bases in 56 games this year. Over to where Europe meets Asia. Of course I'm talking about Russia, a big country that's produced great athletes in a number of sports. Unlike the Czech Republic, Russia has only recently started to focus on baseball. In a country of its size, it won't be hard to find one player with the natural talent that can be developed from a very young age. It's only a matter of time before we see a Russian in MLB. Their best bet for an immediate Major League debut would probably come from left-handed relief pitcher Anton Kuznetsov. The 23-year-old Phillies prospect is playing at Single-A Clearwater. He's appeared in 5 games, 9 2/3 innings, only 3 runs allowed, good for a .279 ERA. Unfortunately, he's on the 60-day IL, so we won't get to see how well he could do over a full season there. In 2019, in low Single-A Williamsport, he had a .191 ERA in 17 appearances, 30 strikeouts over 33 innings. If he doesn't make it to the big leagues, someone from Russia will make it before too long. They've got a large pool of athletes to choose from, and unlike in decades past, thousands of their young athletes are being introduced to baseball. I'm sure that somebody playing youth baseball in Russia right now has what it takes to reach the big leagues. And the concept of size matters applies even more to the next 2 countries I'll talk about. You can probably guess the countries I'm referring to. One is China. Like Russia, it's a country with a large population that's serious about producing world-class athletes, and they never really took baseball seriously before. Only recently has baseball been introduced to a large number of their young athletes. But China has a couple big advantages over Russia. One is its enormous population, about 10 times that of Russia's, so that's more athletes to choose from, increasing the likelihood that you'll find one with the potential to reach the highest levels. An even bigger advantage is the attention that China gets from Major League Baseball. MLB has poured in a lot of money, providing equipment, introducing the sport to children, and giving them the proper training. Only in the past decade have they opened training academies, so they have yet to see the results of all the effort they've put in. So it's going to happen, eventually. But as of right now, it doesn't look like there are any serious prospects. A few years ago, the Milwaukee Brewers signed a trio of Chinese prospects. 2 of them were failures. Infielder Yong Kong Ko had an OPS of .342 in 28 games in the Rookie League in 2019. Relief pitcher Yi Jian had a .758 ERA in 19 innings in that same year. Another relief pitcher, Lung Zhao, had some success in his short stint in the Brewers system. In 8 1/3 innings, he gave up only 1 run, good for a .108 ERA during the 2018 season. His fastball got up to 96, but he was injured in 2019 and we haven't heard from him since. He'll turn 20 this weekend, so wherever he is, there's still time. If not, we may have to wait several years for our first Chinese major leaguer. but it will happen before too long. Another country with a large population that's been getting a lot of attention from MLB is India. It's pretty much the same story as China. Baseball was never played there before, but now it's being played by thousands of kids, and Major League Baseball is providing the training in the hope that one of those young ball players has what it takes to make it to the top. India is on its way to overtaking China as the world's most populous country, so it seems like the right place to invest in. And they have made a lot of progress getting the sport off the ground and developing players' skills, but the progress seen there has lagged behind that seen in China, and right now there are no Indian prospects in the minors to speak of. Naturally, when you hear the words Indian minor league prospects, you're probably reminded of the 2 Indian pitchers that played in the Pittsburgh Pirates system after winning the $1 Million Arm competition. Both pitchers showed some promise, but they were unable to get past the single A level. That was 13 years ago that one-off reality show was attempted. They're now thinking about bringing it back and possibly doing it annually. It seems that if they kept doing that on a yearly basis, they eventually would find a true $1 Million Arm. If not, they'll find the right player in one of the country's new development centers. We won't see an Indian make an MLB debut in the next 5 years, but maybe in 10 years it's a possibility. And I haven't forgotten about neighboring Pakistan. They've got a population greater than Russia's, and a national baseball program that's a lot more advanced than what India has. But no Pakistani prospects, no effort from MLB to develop the game there. The young players lack the right equipment and the right training to get their skills to the next level. Until that changes, I think it's likely we'll see an Indian major leaguer before we see a Pakistani in MLB, even though I expect Pakistan will continue to be the dominant baseball country in the South Asian region. And now we go from size matters to size isn't everything. New Zealand's population is only 5 million, but don't be surprised if you see a Major League Kiwi before long. There have already been 2 that came close. Infielders Scott Campbell and Travis Wilson reached the AAA level just in the last 20 years. Campbell spent just part of 1 season in AAA. Wilson spent a few years there and put up some pretty good numbers, but just never got the call-up. What's amazing about that is he didn't start playing baseball until he was 19, having first been a member of the New Zealand national softball team. Baseball is the number 3 choice of bat and ball sport in New Zealand, behind cricket and softball, so they're never going to have a large pool of players to choose from. But we're seeing a trend of athletes first being successful in softball and then transferring their skills to baseball, which isn't too big of a leap. And we've already seen in Australia where baseball has never been a top sport, but they've managed to land over 30 players in MLB. The same can happen with New Zealand, just on a smaller scale. There had never been a major league player from the African continent until 4 years ago, and now we've already seen 2. Both of them came from South Africa, the dominant baseball country on the African continent. And when I say dominant, I don't mean like winning 100 games in a major league season. When South Africa goes against the next best team in Africa, 25-0 is a pretty standard score. So an African-born player from any other country jumping to the major league system simply by being the best in his country is not likely to happen. They're going to need some help from the outside. And they're starting to get that. Scouts are looking in Africa, as the game is played there now more than ever. If I had to pick one country that could see its first major leaguer in the next 10 years, it would be Uganda. They've only been playing baseball there for about 20 years, but have established themselves as the consistent number 2 team in Africa. If they can get some of their best young athletes abroad to get better training, one of them will surely be able to make it. And there's got to be another country in South America that's ready to send one to the big show. So far we've seen a lot of players from Venezuela, quite a few from Colombia, and only recently a few from Brazil. In the last century, baseball was largely confined to Venezuela and the northern coast of Colombia, but that is changing with the mass emigration from Venezuela in the past decade. Now baseball is played almost everywhere. MLB has a large presence in the Caribbean, and they're now present in Brazil too. So getting young athletes from other countries to the development centers and displaying their talent in front of scouts won't be too hard. Peru seems like the most likely candidate here. They've received the second most immigration from Venezuela, after Colombia, and as a result there's a lot of baseball being played there now. Though there are no Peruvian prospects at this time, we'll probably see one in the next 10 years, and from Chile and Argentina too. In summary, the countries I think that could land a player in MLB for the first time are the Czech Republic, Russia, China, India, New Zealand, Uganda, and Peru. The first 3 of those countries have prospects right now who could possibly rise to the top level. The next 4 don't have any right now, but have the potential to produce major league talent, and I think that'll happen sooner than later. And what do you think? Which of those countries do you think will be the first to get a player into MLB? Or do you think it'll be a totally different country? After all, we never expected to see a major leaguer from Lithuania before most other European countries. Anyway, that's all for this one. Until next time, this is Baseball International. See ya.